Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. Today, in this guest bathroom, we are going to install our trim kit. Now this trim kit is going to go over the Delta MultiChoice Valve. It's the 10,000 series. What's really cool about that valve, they call it multi-choice because you have over 500 choices of different trim kits you can put in. If you get bored with that trim kit, or you just don't like the colors and you're switching colors in your bathroom, you can switch it out in a matter of minutes. Love that aspect of that valve. If you have leak problems and things with the valve, you can pull the cartridge out, slide a new cartridge in, and you're up and running again really quickly. And the cartridges always come with the trim kits. So that's a really nice thing. You get a new trim kit, you get a new cartridge all at the same time. So let's take a look at what it is that we're putting in today and where it's a little different than some of the ones I've done in the past. This is the box it comes in, and this is the Ashlyn 17 series trim kit. These are all the parts that you're going to get, but what makes this kit a little different is that it has two handles on it. It not only has two handles, it has two shower heads, and I'm going to show you how that works. But the two handles, one of them is going to control volume, the other is going to control temperature. So where that's really cool is if you're in a traditional house with a traditional hot water heater and you're using the trunk and line system for your plumbing, you can actually set your temperature to a preset temperature, and then you control the volume on the other handle. So the next day when you get in, you don't have to touch your temperature at all. You just turn the volume where you want it. It's automatically going to start up at the temperature that you want. If you're like I am working on a home run system where I have an on-demand hot water heater, and I will set my on-demand hot water heater to the temperature I want throughout the year. So if it's summertime, I'm going to move it back a little. If it's wintertime, I move it up a little, but that way it is always the same temperature, and I could come in and just turn on hot water. But it works for either system, and I'm going to show you how to set that temperature though, so you kind of know what you're doing when you get into this and you can get it set right. So let's look at some of the actual stuff that comes with the kit. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to open it up, take everything out, and the very first thing you're going to see is the manual. And you definitely want to read that manual and kind of have an understanding of how it goes. But if you follow this video, you're going to get a pretty good idea of how it goes in even without the manual. So this is the actual Delta cartridge, and most of the cartridges will come together in one piece. This one's a little different. It is a two-piece model. So if you're pulling out your old cartridge and you're going to this, you're going to have to put this in first, and then you're going to install this. If it's a traditional cartridge, you just slide it in and out all as one piece. Okay, so that's a difference in this particular model. So you'll have your cartridge. You're going to see this thing that looks like a little rubber O-ring. This is actually not a gasket. What it's going to do is it's going to ride over the actual arm as it comes out, and this will slide over it, and it keeps this from rocking. That's what that's for. So do not lose that. This is your scutcheon plate right here, and it's easy to know top from bottom. It has Delta and has the off and all the little stuff on this side, and these are the two screws that hold the scutcheon plate on. So we have that. You're going to have the arm for the shower head right here. And these are your two handles. This is going to be volume. This is going to be temperature. And it's easy to know the difference because you see the temperature little dots right here. Red being hot, blue being cold. These are the dials that will go inside that we are going to have to set. And this little set screw here is very important because that's what's going to hold all the handles together. Okay, so do not lose that. Now this is where this unit also is a little different. There's a hose here, and you basically have two shower heads, and you have a choice of either this shower head or both at the same time, and it will clip in just like this. There's going to be at least 4 settings on this. I know you have a full-on shower, you have a massage with full-on, And I believe there's one other one, but I do know that you have the full shut off on here as well. So you don't have to mess with your controls. You can shut everything off right here, soap up, and then get going again. So one other piece I forgot to put in here is this is the plate for your shower arm so that it covers that opening. But outside of that, that's pretty much it. Now some of the things you're going to need, I have a screw gun here, but I generally do not recommend, especially if you're a novice and you're just starting out with this stuff, don't use a power drill, because you could strip these screws and you can create a problem, or you can over crank them and bust things in the wall. So you don't want to do that. I would suggest using a regular Phillips screwdriver. Most of the time on things like this, I may drive real quickly and get the screw caught up, and then I'll finish off with the screwdriver. You're probably going to need some channel locks, or open-end adjustable pliers, the correct term for them. Now, I would tell you that if you put these on the arm and you're cranking that arm, if you don't have a towel or something, you're liable to scuff that up. So be sure you have a towel nearby. And most of the time, if you do this correctly, the way these threads are made, and if you're putting on your Teflon tape, you do not have to put a tool on it. So I would try to tighten it and make sure you don't have to put on a tool. If you do have to put on a tool to get it just a little further around so that it's lined up the way it's supposed to be, do not use your pliers directly on this metal. All right, so we have those. The other things, like I mentioned, you're going to need Teflon tape, and you might want some like the Blue Monster pipe thread sealant. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of both, but those are about the only other things you're going to need. Now, when it comes to setting the temperature, I have a temperature gun that I'm going to use to shoot the water as it's coming out and see what my temperature is at, and then I'll adjust my temperature controls. You can also use a thermometer. Even the digital thermometer, you can just put it right under the water and it'll start reading the actual temperature. So my water is shut off. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start taking off the bonnet, and I'll show you what the bonnet is, but we'll start getting ready to put the valve in. So let's go ahead and let me grab a couple of these pieces, get them over there. And let's see if we can get the bonnet. Now there may be some water in the system because I just shut it off, but I've got things draining. So let's give it a try. All right, guys, so one of the very first things, this is called a bonnet, and this is just a cap that we throw away after. This is a pressure test cap. So we are going to twist this off, and it's usually on here just hand tight. But if you look down in here, you're going to see the anchor points. The anchor points are this copper way back in the back, right down there. And then you have one up here. So that is where we are actually going to anchor our scutcheon plate and everything into place. And we are going to slide our unit. So we're going to go ahead and twist this off real quick. All right, so let's see. There we go. All right, so do not throw this away. You're going to need it. Let's see if this pops out and we end up with water everywhere. Here she comes. There we go. And if you notice, I have a bucket down below, even though I'm in the shower. That way you're not walking in water. So take this piece and just set it aside. And now what we are going to do, the first part of our valve. So the first part of your valve has this little handle that's going to come off once we get it in. Now I also have this is a little screen filter. You're not going to need that anymore. You can take that out. And now we are going to work this into place. And let's see. So if you look down inside here, you see these two holes. We've got to get these with the rubber gaskets. Now, a lot of times I will wet the gaskets just to make it a little easier to slide in. And you have to push. My hands are going to block you some here, but you've got to get this thing into those holes. Let's see. This thing's trying to slide, so we want to make sure we are lined up. There we go. And push it in there good. There we go. Now we have good contact. It's all the way tight. Very important. Now the next thing that once we have that in, the next thing is going to be this valve. Now this just kind of holds everything together, protects the stem a little bit, but I believe it keeps things from coming off. You don't need that. Get rid of that. Now where this is tricky is you have to look for the word hot. And the way they have this, it should be right here. If you look, it's way up here in the black on the top of the stem. So this needs to go to your hot side. My hot side is on the left, which you're going to find most often is going to be the case. So that needs to go in facing that hot. And when you do put this in, you look here, you have these little keyways, these little notches, and you have a notch keyway here. Line those up. You have one here and one on that side. There again, just make sure you understand, there's your hot. Line it up. Line up your keyways and it should pop into place. There you go. And we are now in place. Now this is where the bonnet comes back in. Your bonnet, take it and start your bonnet back. And you should only have to get this pretty much hand tight. You do not need to be putting a tool on this. All right, guys, so the next part of the equation is we are going to install the arm and the head of the shower. Now, I've got this wrong on purpose because I want to show you where guys mess up. When you put this in, you're going to put the Teflon tape, and you don't want, as you twist it in, to untwist your tape. So in other words, the tape has to end in the direction that you're turning. So when I put it in, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you look at this right now, my tape ends this way. So if I start twisting it in, I'm going to unravel my tape, okay? So that is wrong. So that means that my tape, instead of going to the left here, needs to be going to the right. So I need to reverse that like this. Get it started. It's a little bit twisted up here. There we go. And you're going to do about 6 or 7 turns. And this is where you can use a little bit of the Plumber's sealant as well. But I get it all the way around. And I've done just a little bit under my 6 or 7 because I'll probably use a little bit of that dope on there. So now when I turn, my tape is facing this way, and it is not going to unravel the tape. It's real important, and a lot of guys struggle with that. All right, so I'm not going to put it on this end yet. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of the Plumber's dip on here just to give it a little bit of extra security there. If you ever watch any of my other videos, you know that generally I never use just the tape. I always add a little bit of this as well. It gives me just one little extra layer of protection. Now we have to pull the other one out. So I'm going to use my channel locks to pull this off. This is a solid brass one. I'll use my adjustable pliers and start twisting, and it's in there pretty good. All right, guys, this one's been in here a while, so it's being stubborn. So I grabbed a bigger set of my channels. There we go. And let's see if we can feed this in. And I've got, okay, pretty tight. Let's see if we can get one more. Actually, that's pretty good. right there. This. Now, you don't necessarily have to put tape on her because you do have a little O-ring, but I would still suggest it. So we're going to go ahead and put some tape. Just like that. And if you don't like the look of the tape when you get done, guys, you can use a razor knife and go back and cut off the excess. I'm going to do that about right there. This just makes sure that I do not have a little drip. And this is going to give me about 7. And on this one, I don't usually put the other plumber's dope because there's no need to here. If I get a little drip, I'm going to see it and I can retighten. And I really don't want that look on the outside. The inside is a little more important because it can drip in the wall. So, sorry guys if I got a glare. I've got the light right here to make sure you guys can see. Always make sure that you don't get the tape inside the opening. That tape can break off, go inside there, and it can actually clog your head up. So let's see now how this twists on. Now you have 2 notches here. You can put a tool on this if you need to tighten it all the way. Just make sure that you use a towel. There it goes. Took a second to get that to start because it's a little different than our traditional head. All right. Next, we'll be grabbing the line right here. And we're going to put our line on. And basically I'm just hand tightening first. Like I said, we'll see where we are. And we're going to take and screw that one on. If you notice, there are no teeth on this to be able to put a tool. They don't want you putting tools on here. Okay guys, so there's a couple things I forgot to mention earlier that I want to go ahead and point out about this head, which is really cool. This has what's called a touch head. So what that means is when you have a normal head and it builds up calcium deposits and things on the head, you have to rinse it, pull it off. You sometimes have to use chemicals to soak it to get rid of it. This is designed so that if you reach up and just touch these heads, it cleans them. They self-clean. Very cool feature. It has that, and this also, in this valve right here, it has an anti-scalding function. Meaning that if you've ever been in a shower before, somebody goes and flushes a toilet and it causes the water to all of a sudden go cold or extremely hot, this one will sense the difference and it will keep that from happening so that you don't get burnt or freeze to death either way. So it's really a cool function. All right guys, so before you can put the discussion plate on, you have to take this ring and you got to work it on past the bonnet. It usually goes just behind the bonnet. Just like that, and then you are going to use this spacer and it's going to slide on just like that right there, and that's it, right where it needs to be. Now we have to work the discussion plate itself on, and you look at the discussion plate, it has Delta here and it has all of your settings. So you're obviously going to put it that way. Now mine is a little bit tricky because I don't have a lot of room to get to this one screw, so I've got to try to work it in and find it. See if we can get it. All right guys, I got both of them actually started. I had to play with it for a few minutes to figure out how to get it to line up. This is where you're going to want to use a screwdriver, not a screw gun. It does not take much to tighten this down. And like I said earlier, this is where you could put silicone behind here, but this sticks out so far with the foam, I don't see the silicone helping a whole lot here. Just make sure it's tight enough that it's snug, but not too tight to break the tabs. Just like that. And if I feel like there's any water can get behind here, I can always go back with a very thin line of silicone around and wipe it off and I'm good to go. Besides, I think it's easier in the future to take it off if you do that. So your little shield is on, the discussion plate is on. It is time now to start working our handles on. The first handle is going to be your volume handle. This needs to go to the right. And one way you can tell on this one is all these little areas here that show higher on, the big circles to the small circles. So you need to go that direction. So this is going to, you got to find the fitting here. Let's see. I think it's like right in there somewhere. There you go. Okay guys, full disclosure. Make sure that the hot is on the left side. I thought it was, but it's very hard to read because they printed that in the black part of the actual valve, which makes it hard to see. And when I put it in, I did not have the little arm turned, and it ended up being on the right side, which made the handle very weird. It was not going where it's supposed to be. If you'll look, we have an off here, and we have our, actually you have on and you have off, and you have all of this. So you want this to line up with that and go all the way down correctly. If it's not doing that, something's out of place. So ultimately I had to remove everything and redo it. My wife comes in, she's the camera person today, and she's like, no, that isn't going to work. Unfortunately, that for me, that made life a little difficult, but I am glad we got it figured out correctly. So I pulled everything back off, got the on turned to the other way, and had to play with it a little bit to get it just right. And then bam, there it was, and it looks perfect. So now we're going to go on to setting our little dials. These are going to be our temperature dials. This one goes on first, and then we are going to have these go on as well. This one will go inside of that one. And we actually set temperature. Now, like I said, my temperature is going to be set at the actual on-demand hot water heater, but I'm going to kind of show you how this works. Now we're to the part of putting on our mixing little discs. We already have the first valve set. Now it's not anchored. You have the screw that's going to hold it on. But this is how you set the temperature. And I'm going to turn a little extra light on here so that you can see this, hopefully. If you look really close, you'll see a C right at the top here where the wheel starts, right here. And on the bottom of the other side, you see an H. So you're going to turn this wheel either to all the way cold or all the way hot. Generally, you're going to pick the middle, and then you're going to move it. Every one of these little teeth here are going to be a difference of anywhere from 4 to 5 degrees. So what you do, and let me turn that light off so you can see. So all you're going to do is you're going to make sure the little feet here are facing in, and you're going to take and place this like so. You'll do it kind of in the middle. Actually, that's way high. Let me reset that. So you're going to do it kind of to the middle, like it's in the middle of this dial piece right here. Okay? So you're going to do that, and then you're going to put this piece on top. And this can only go one way. Actually, I have it upside down. You see the hole here? That's where your screw goes. That's the part that this fits in. So it has the notch onto there. So it'll be on here, and then to be able to adjust, we're going to go ahead and set our set screw. Now, one of the things they do tell you on this disc, which is about the only print on it, is do not over tighten because you will break the disc. It doesn't have to be super tight. But what we're going to do is we're going to check our temperature real fast, and then we're going to pull it back loose and adjust it the way we need to. And when you get done, your other handle just clips right on. It's going to look like this right here. This just actually clips on. Okay? So what we do now is you'll turn this right here. All the way to there is going to be your cold. All the way here will be hot. So that's our cold. So we're going to flip this on like this, and then you'll have it all the way to cold. Make sure you've got cold coming out, and then you're going to switch it over to hot, and you let it run for a minute and see how much hot water you have coming out. And how I check mine is I am going to use a meter, a temperature meter. And all I like, and you can try to put it in the stream. Sometimes that works, sometimes not so good with a shower head. Once it feel like it's hit your top temperature, I'm going to fill up the water, and then I'm going to read the water. Right now I'm at 95.4. Now, optimum is going to be about 110 is where you really want it to be able to take a temperature. And if you, let me turn that off. About 110 for taking a shower, because it's mixing that and it's keeping it limited. 120 is generally the max that these things will go to. Now I have my hot water heater set to 120, so I'm going to do mine a little different. I've got to pull that back off, and I have to set that limit switch to the max. That way I will use my hot water heater to adjust the temperature, because that's what I normally do. So we're going to pull it back off, and I'm going to show you if you are going to adjust it. So say that was 91. Let me show you how you would adjust that. So let's see, first of all, there we go. We're all the way back down to cold right now. Pull it, make sure you don't drop this screw. It'll go right down your drain, and then you would have a problem. So you have the screw, and now we're going to pull this off right here and try to keep this in place so you know exactly where it is. Now, you can see where it says hot, you can see where it says cold. If I change this to where I'm moving the center little marker here more towards the hot, it's going to be hotter. And I put everything back together. Each one of these little notches here, like it says, 4 to 6 degrees. Now what I'm going to do, because I want to set my hot water heater to it, I'm going to set it at max. That's my max, I believe, right there. Let me make sure I can't get any further over. That's it. I cannot go any hotter than what I have right now. Now we're going to put this back on, and that's working perfect. And that's my cold. So now we put the screw back in, and you can see where it hits this limit right here. That's what's stopping it from each direction. So if I go all the way down right now, where it's hitting that is going to be ice cold. And don't over tighten. Ice cold. Keep this pulled down so you don't get yourself wet, and then all the way over there should be hot now. So now let's turn it back on, and let's see what we have for hot water. And what I'm shooting for is going to be close to the 120. And I can feel it getting pretty warm. That's getting really warm. It may still be a little bit cold yet, not all the way warmed up, but let's see what we have. 111.7. So definitely getting closer to what I wanted. And that's definitely warmer than it was a second ago. So let's try it again. Okay, one more time. 115.5, so it's going up. That's going to be my max. I can't go any further. So now that we have that on, it's going to be, I've got it where I want it. Now, like I said, you personally are going to need to set that depending on whether you have an on-demand hot water heater or whether you have a certain temperature that you're wanting to get it to. If you have kids in the house, you're elderly, you may not want it super scalding hot. You may want to back that off a little. You may want to shoot for that 105 to 110 max, because it's going to mix your cold and your hot. I don't need that. So we're going to go ahead now and see if we can slip this on. This is supposed to just clip right on. It has little pieces here that have a little lever, so it should, if we can figure, you can see here, if you look real close, you have two spots where it clips, here and here. So this should just clip on. Let's see if we can get it to work. I'm going to start from the bottom and push upward. And I'm want to make sure we don't break anything. I see. Okay, not sure you can see them, but I'm not sure. Maybe
that might go up like that.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
That's what I'm thinking. Oh, sorry. All right, let's try it. There it is. Okay, so that's how it clips on. So that's kind of a cool deal because you got all the way on up here and down off on your flow, and your temperature is controlled from the top. So kind of a cool deal. So now let's try it again and let's see how it works with everything fully on. So there you go, guys. I've got it in. It isn't real difficult. Normally it's a little easier than this particular valve. It's a little harder because of the double arms. But if you play with a little and you watch this video a few times and kind of see how it's adjusted, I think you'll figure it out pretty quickly. So some of the things that I will point out is make sure that if you are going to set your hot water temperature and you are using an on-demand, like I've said several times before, make sure that you set it to your max so you can set your hot water heater to where you want it. So the cool thing about this, though, if you look at it, the one thing I don't particularly like a whole lot is this seems to be right in the way of there. I don't know if there's something I can hang on the wall to kind of hold this back, but I don't like that particular part of it too much. But other than that, I think it's great. This pulls off, it clips into place, it'll adjust right here, and you also have functions up here as well. So that part is really nice, and if you watch, it just clips in like this, and this whole head adjusts. So I can move it up or down, whatever I need to do. Now here, this is all the way in the off position. This is my flow. Move it up, I am going to be in full on or somewhere in the middle. And like I said, you can actually, once you've got that set, you can come over and set your temperature. Now your temperature, make sure we don't turn that on. All the way this way is going to be hot. All the way back over here now is cold. So if you look with all the way off and cold, it's all the way in the same position. So now once I get my temperature where I want it, so say I'm setting it right here and it's a regular mixing valve and I'm not using my on-demand hot water heater, I will leave it right there. When I come back in, I just flip my flow. Leave this alone and it'll always be at the perfect temperature. So in other words, it'll work a lot like an on-demand hot water heater at that point. So I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you haven't watched our series on rebuilding this bathroom, this is a little guest bathroom. We just put in the all river rock floor, which came out really great. We tiled it. We have a really cool accent wall over here, which we just put in. We're fixing to paint the other side of the room, and we're going to be putting in a Toto toilet on this side. Not just any Toto, but the top of the line Toto. So that's going to be really cool, and a pedestal sink. A few other finishing touches, and then this bathroom will be done, and we'll be moving on to other parts of our home. We do a lot of videos here at our home, and I also work during the day as a handyman, and I share a lot of those videos as well. So you're going to see a mixture of everything. So if you're not a subscriber, be sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so that you know about all of our upcoming videos, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.